I read this great article. One of the reasons it was so great is because it was like 2 pages long. I actually love to read, but I've developed this appreciation for brevity and concise wording as I have started to give meditation talks and to write our newsletter and blogs. So this article was about what they call the fugue state or flow. And it's a pretty simple idea in this article, but what they did was they took professional rappers and they put them in an fMRI and had them freestyle rap versus rapping what they had memorized. I don't listen to a lot of rap or hip hop, but I understand the idea of freestyle improvisation versus just performing something that you have memorized. And we do the same type of thing in class as well. But if you think about like jazz, so they did a similar study with jazz musicians, and they study what areas of the brain light up when a jazz pianist is improvising versus playing something that they've practiced over and over and over again, and it's quite different. So it's this idea of Mushin, basically. It's very similar to what I talk about all the time in class. So flow state or Mushin or no mind is like, I want to get out of my own way. I want to be able to be in the moment and allow the art to flow through me. And this is one of the things that is necessary as a martial artist. And if you're ever going to defend yourself, think about it. If somebody attacks you and you stop and think about what you need to do, that moment is the difference. That is the world of difference between success and failure. In the moment where you pause and you freeze up, that's when you get hit, that's when you get stabbed, that's when they throw you, that's when they get you in the car, whatever. So we have to be able to completely be present. And I mean by allowing the ego to disappear and allowing the self to just be completely present in this state of no mind, in this state of flow, we are going to be able to defend ourselves. But also, kind of like what I was talking about at the end of class, to be present is to be happy. If you think about it, you can't be happy in the past. You can't be happy in the future. You can only be happy right now. You can remember things in the past when you were happy. You can remember things or think about how things might be in the future. But I mean, like, to actually be happy is to be present right here, right now. And so what they did was they, in the fMRI, they found that when these rappers or these jazz musicians were improvising, the certain areas of the prefrontal cortex lit up that are involved with, I forget exactly what they said, it's involved with like organization and something else, which doesn't seem like it would necessarily make sense, but if you think about it, it's like rapidly organizing, whatever is going to happen in that moment. And this is the most interesting part. The part of the brain that is involved with self-monitoring and editing is shut down. And this is really what is completely necessary, because that part of us is the ego. That part of us is the thing that is us in our own way. And if you imagine like you're in class and you're sparring and somebody throws a strike at you and you stop to think about what to do, it's not going to work. But if you allow yourself to be in the moment and you're not thinking about what it is that I need to do, and you're not thinking, am I doing a good job, am I doing a bad job, all of that stuff is not existing in the moment. When the punch comes, all there is to do is move and flow with whatever your body does. And like I said, for self-defense, it's incredibly important, but just for our practice and our art, same thing with meditation. If you are meditating, so I'm going to draw a very clear distinction here between meditating and what we normally do when we pretend that we're meditating. So what we normally do is we sit there and we think. And we think about stuff, and then we think, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. And then we sit there and we breathe for a moment, and then I think, am I doing this right? And then I think, I remember the last time I tried to meditate, that was a great meditation. Why is this one so bad? And we're just thinking about whatever. And then the car drives by and it honks. And then we start thinking about the car. And then we come back to it and we say, no, you're doing this wrong. Stop it. You're supposed to be meditating right now. You're supposed to be in the moment. What's wrong with you? And all that stuff, none of that is actually meditation. Meditation is when you surrender to the moment, when you surrender to the breath, to this moment right now. And anything else that comes up, you just allow it to flow right through. And it is really practicing the shutting down of that editing and the self-monitoring. That's what we want to do. So you should get that in your sitting meditation. You should also be able to get that in your moving meditation. So maybe you're in Tai Chi, and this is very tough for people in the beginning, because in Tai Chi you're learning a form, and it's complicated, isn't it, Melanie? It's one of the most complicated things that you'll ever learn. It is incredibly intricate. Julie knows that she had her first class today, and you think you got it, but you probably know you didn't get it. So you're going, and it's like, is my hand in the right place? Is my foot in the right place? Am I shifting my weight? Is Sifu watching me right now? Well, wait a minute. I thought the arm was supposed to be like this, and how come this person is showing me that it's like this? And again, all of the thoughts that we have. And then maybe you go home and you practice. And when you're practicing at home, you're thinking about all the details and am I getting it right? And no, okay, it's not here, it's supposed to be here. And then you practice that. And while you're practicing it over and over and over, you're drilling this into your head, and then you're getting through your head into your body, so that you can get to this place where in the moment of practicing Tai Chi, you're not actually practicing Tai Chi anymore, you're just doing it. And you're not even doing it. That's a misunderstanding. Like, we think that we're doing it. It is doing us. Tai Chi is moving us. Or when your partner punches at you, your art moves you. And Bruce Lee said it's when it happens. And Ueshiba Sensei said it's when spirit flows through you. We have to be an open channel. And the only way to do that is to shut down that part of the brain and allow it to happen. So I think that's all that I had written here, and I'm done with that part of the talk, I guess. So I'll give an example of this. I had been practicing Kung Fu for 2 or 3 years, and I felt really good. I was like 19, 20 years old, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm great at this. And this is just after I decided that I want to teach martial arts for the rest of my life. And I'm still kind of in the ego with it, but with glimpses of, I sit and meditate and wow, I'm actually free of it for a moment. Or I'm practicing with my partner and I recognize when I'm celebrating, when I win, or when I'm destroyed, when I lose. And I'm able to let that go. But I was practicing one day with my friend Michael Anuzis. Michael Anuzis is the man who you should all thank, because he introduced me to martial arts at Sifu Brown School. He's my friend from high school, and he brought me to class. And he and I ended up going to college together at University of Michigan. And because I had been practicing martial arts and meditating long enough that I could actually keep my mind focused and get studying done and finish my projects done on time, which is not the way that I was before martial arts, I had free time. And so in my free time, I practiced martial arts. When I wasn't driving back to practice with Sifu Brown, I would practice with him. And we would go to one of the gyms on campus, and sometimes we'd lay out mats and we'd grapple or we'd throw each other, and we were practicing this drill, the sticky hands drill. Come here, ma'am. So it's this drill that looks like this, where you're just flowing with your partner and you're going into technique, and it's not stop and think, oh yeah, I do this. I mean, that's the way that it looks in the beginning, is you're going like this and you're like, what am I doing right now? Let me think of a technique. Armbar. It's supposed to be like this. You're just flowing, and whatever comes, you go with it. And we were practicing this drill, and what happened? He went for shionagi like this. So Michael goes here for that technique. You do that on this side. And I grabbed his arm and I ended up in juji. And there's no way, like impossible that I would have been able to do this if I was thinking about it. No way. Because it was full speed and like he was going into it and I was just right there. And, thank you, man. It sticks out in my mind as one of the coolest experiences ever in practice because it was the first time that I can remember an instance of it just happened without me making it happen. And you can never actually make it happen. We think we make it happen, but really for it to flow through us means that we're not there. So you can't make it happen if you're not there, right? So in that moment, I had him in like a juji, and we both stopped, and we both looked at each other, and it was like, oh, that was cool. And then we just went back to practicing. And of course, that's the way that it goes, is you are in the flow state, and in the beginning, you do something great. You know, you pull off a technique, or in meditation, you find that moment of clarity, of quiet, of still, and then you immediately celebrate it, and the ego comes right back, and it's like, I'm so great at this, I'm amazing. And then as soon as you recognize it, it's gone. One of the things is you can't actually allow yourself to recognize it and then to celebrate it. You have to somehow just stay in the flow state. It's like if you were in a fight and you hit somebody once and you stop to celebrate. Well, that's not good because they're coming right back at you. And it's like in meditation, what we do is we're looking for one breath, just one breath in the beginning. And there's a great meditation master, and I forget who specifically it was that says this, but he says, some days when I'm really like in just the best possible state of meditation, I'm able to stay present for an entire breath, one entire breath. And this was somebody who'd been meditating for like decades, 40, 50, 60 years. And it's funny because in the beginning, we feel like me, I remember the first time I really sat and meditated in Sifu Brown's class, I had that moment of clarity where I disappeared, and in that moment, it was just the breath. And of course, I celebrated, I was all excited about it, and then it was gone. And then sure enough, like a minute later, because I wasn't, my consciousness wasn't within, focusing on the breath, my consciousness was without on my body, and I ended up just like curling up against the wall in a fetal position because my hips hurt so much. When you're in a deep meditation, that doesn't happen. You don't hurt, you're just there with the breath. But what was I talking about? There was something that I was talking about before that. Yeah, I know, flow state. I've been talking about that for an hour. Okay, right, the breath. So, and it seems like in the beginning, like I got that breath, I did that breath. Or no, this is a great meditation. I've been sitting here and I've been mindful of my breath the whole time. And that's like when you're kidding yourself. And in the beginning, you're either in one of these two places. You are in this place where you feel really good about the meditation. You're like, I was there and I was very calm and in the moment and peaceful. Or you're over here and you're like, that was a terrible meditation. I wasn't meditating, I was thinking the whole time, and I'm more stressed now than I was when I started meditating. It's seldom in between, but as you practice more, you start to get into this gray area where you recognize, I wasn't actually present the whole time. I was just present for a chunk of time. And then what you're realizing is that I'm able to I'm able to let myself go and enter this state of no mind or something close to it for a few moments before my mind starts to wander. And then I recognize it at some point down the path, and I'm able to bring it back to this moment, this next breath. And the longer you meditate, the more you recognize, wait a minute, I'm not actually meditating for very long. I'm not actually in the moment for very long. the moments that you realize that you're present for get shorter and shorter and shorter, because you start to realize that actually your ego kicks back in and you're taken out of that state back to just regular waking consciousness almost immediately. You start to recognize your thoughts come in. And so people tell me all the time, Sifu, I swear I'm getting worse at meditating. I meditate every day. I meditate longer than I used to, and I'm worse at it. I have more thoughts. I'm more stressed. And this is a function of your perception. Because you start meditating and you're humming along at this level, and then you get this increase in awareness of the thoughts, and you realize, oh, I'm bad at meditating. I'm in this moment. I'm supposed to be breathing, and I'm just thinking about stuff. And then you work, and you get up to this, and then you're humming along at this level, and you're like, yeah, I'm getting this. And then you get a jump in recognition of how much you're actually thinking, and you're looking down here, and you're thinking, oh, I'm terrible at meditation. And so because it's so disjointed, and because you're always looking down at the way you are from your new understanding, it seems like you're getting worse, because your understanding and your perception is improving. It's the same thing when you're in class and you're throwing a front kick in the beginning. This is the example I always use. In the beginning, your front kick is like this. And this is most of you guys who are in class today. Your front kick is like this. And you're like, this is a great front kick. I look just like Sifu over there. This is wonderful. And then you realize, oh, actually, I had my hands up because I'm not good at being bad at front kicks. Your hands are down here. And then you realize, oh, my hands are supposed to be up. I'm bad at the front kick. And then you work on it. You're like, okay, I'm getting it. And then you realize, oh, no, I'm supposed to bring my foot up first. And so then you go like this. And you're like, yes, I'm great at the front kick. I'm so good. And then you realize, oh, I'm supposed to recoil after the front kick, and all of that. And so it's the same kind of process that we go through in meditation. And really in anything in life that has a process like that, where we make some kind of jump in understanding, and then we feel like we're not actually getting better. We feel like we're getting worse. And that is an excuse. And that takes you out of the moment. So if you think about it, any of that judgment of, I'm not good at meditation, my front kick is bad, my Tai Chi sucks, and I don't mean to point at you, Melanie, your Tai Chi is great, but any of that is judgment, comes from the ego. And guess what? The ego doesn't want you to meditate. And the ego doesn't want you to be in flow state. The ego wants you to be obsessed with yourself, and to be looking in the mirror and making sure that you look good, and to always be trying to be right and to never to be wrong. But in the moment, you can't be concerned with any of that stuff. You can't be concerned with victory or defeat. You can't be concerned with looking good or looking bad. You can only be there. And so the judgment or the thought of, I'm not good at this, or the thought of, I'm getting worse at this, or any of that is the ego trying to trick you into stopping, because the ego is deathly afraid of what you're doing here. The ego does not want you to be able to quiet your mind. Your ego does not want you to be able to be in that flow state, because that in that moment is when the ego doesn't exist. So that part of you that views you as separate from everybody else is so engaged. In martial arts, it happens. You think about it, the last time you grappled, the last time you sparred with somebody, I don't know, I'm talking to you guys, you never do either of those things, but if you do that, the ego is like, oh, it's me versus this person, and I'm going to die or I'm going to kill them. But we can't be that way, because that gets in our way and we cannot flow. So you have to just let that go. And so I'm going to stop talking now because I remember brevity. So we're going to work on meditation. In meditation, when we sit tonight, you're not actually going to be meditating. You're going to be trying to meditate. And there's going to be a moment where you might be meditating, and then you're just going to be thinking again. In that moment where you recognize that, just get out of your own head and just allow yourself to slip easily back into that state, rather than all of the extra stuff that we do, which sounds like I'm bad at meditation, I'm not doing this right. And it's your ego saying, you suck at this, you shouldn't meditate anymore. And just be there, just be in the moment, be present. And really, when the ego is dissolved and is gone, that is when you are experiencing reality. That is the oneness. There's no separation between me and you, between us and anybody else. There's no separation between us and the mats that we're sitting on. It's all just everything. So remember that. When you're meditating and you start thinking about how bad you are, that's ego trying to separate you. You can't be bad at meditation, because you're just the same as the mats that you're sitting on. And the mats aren't bad at meditation. They're just mats. That's it.